What happens when the man who saved you becomes the one you can't escape? 25-year-old Stephanie Laurent thought she knew what freedom looked like. She'd fought for it, clawed her way out of an abusive relationship, left everything behind in Paris to start over in Seoul. But freedom has a price. And sometimes that price comes wrapped in designer suits with eyes that see too much and hands stained with violence. This is a story about survival, obsession, and discovering that your savior might be more dangerous than what you were running from. Let's dive in. The apartment was supposed to be temporary. Stephanie stood in the doorway of the cramped studio in Itaewon, staring at the water damage spreading across the ceiling like a bruise. 3 months in Seoul, and this was her 4th place. The landlord had stopped returning her calls 2 weeks ago. Her phone buzzed. Rent reminder. Due in 3 days. Her stomach twisted because she didn't have it. Not after the hospital bill from last month when she'd collapsed at her job. Not after sending money home to her younger sister. She was 25, alone in a country where she barely spoke the language, and running out of options fast. The knock on her door came at 9 p.m. Stephanie froze. Nobody knew where she lived. She'd made sure of that. Old habits from Paris. From him, from the 3 years she'd spent looking over her shoulder. Stephanie Laurent? The voice was male, speaking English with a Korean accent. She grabbed the kitchen knife she kept by the door. Who are you? My name is Chae Jong. I'm a friend of your sister's boyfriend. May I come in? Her sister's boyfriend. Minho. The only person who knew she was in Seoul. Stephanie cracked the door open, chain still attached, and her breath caught. The man standing in her hallway looked like he'd walked out of a magazine spread. Tall, impossibly handsome, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than her entire year's rent. Dark hair swept back from a face that was all sharp angles and dangerous beauty. But it was his eyes that stopped her. Dark, intense, and looking at her like he could see straight through to her bones. What do you want? To help you. He glanced past her into the apartment, took in the water damage, the single mattress on the floor, the suitcase that still wasn't unpacked because what was the point? Minho told me about your situation. I have a proposition. I don't need charity. It's not charity, it's business. His gaze returned to her face. I own several properties in Seoul. One of my tenants just broke their lease. 3-bedroom apartment in Gangnam, fully furnished. You can have it. Stephanie's hand tightened on the knife. Why? Because I need someone I can trust to house sit. The building has had issues with break-ins. Having someone living there would solve that problem. You don't know me. Minho vouches for you. That's enough. He pulled out a business card, slid it through the crack in the door. Think about it. Call me if you're interested. He was gone before she could respond. Stephanie stared at the card. Chae Jong. Import-export. A phone number. Nothing else. She should throw it away. Should recognize this for what it was too good to be true. But when she lay down that night, listening to water drip into the bucket by her bed, she couldn't stop thinking about his offer. 3 days later, standing in front of her landlord with empty pockets and nowhere to go, Stephanie made the call. The apartment was in a building that made her Itaewon studio look like a closet. Stephanie stepped into the marble lobby, feeling completely out of place in her worn jeans and scuffed sneakers. The doorman looked at her like she'd wandered in by mistake. I'm here to see Chae Jong? His expression shifted immediately. 23rd floor. Elevator on your right. The elevator had mirrors on every wall. Stephanie avoided looking at herself. She knew what she'd see. A girl who'd lost too. Much weight. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair that needed cutting. She looked like what she was. Desperate. Chae Jong was waiting when the doors opened. Same expensive suit. Same unreadable expression. But something flickered in his eyes when he saw her. Something that made her pulse kick. You came. I need a place to stay. Then let me show you your new home. He led her down a hallway to the last door, pulled out a key and opened it. Stephanie stepped inside and forgot how to breathe. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River. Hardwood floors, modern furniture, a kitchen that looked like something from a cooking show. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, everything pristine and perfect and impossible. This is too much. It's yours for as long as you need it. Chae Jong moved to the windows. Rent is 200,000 won a month. That was nothing. A fraction of what a place like this should cost. Why? I told you. I need someone here. He turned to face her. But there are rules. Of course there were. What kind of rules? No guests without my permission. No giving out this address. You see anything suspicious in the building? You tell me immediately. His eyes locked on hers. And if anyone asks about me, you don't know anything. Red flags. Massive, waving red flags. But Stephanie was so tired of running, of struggling, of sleeping with a knife under her pillow in apartments with broken locks. What do you do, Mr. Che? Import and export, like the card says. And what exactly do you import and export? His smile was sharp. Things people need. Sometimes things they don't know they need until I provide them. Not an answer at all. I'm not getting involved in anything illegal. I'm not asking you to. I'm offering you a place to live. What I do outside these walls is my business. He moved closer. But I'll tell you this, Stephanie. You'll be safer here than you've been in years. This building has security, cameras, guards. Nobody gets in without clearance. Her heart clenched. How did he know? Minho told you. Minho is worried about you. Your sister is worried about you. His expression softened, just slightly. Let me help. She should say no. Should walk away from this beautiful stranger with his expensive suits and his too good offers and his eyes that saw too much. Okay. The word came out before she could stop it. Chaejong's smile was slow, satisfied. Smart girl. He handed her the key. I'll have someone bring your things from Itaewon tomorrow. Get settled. Rest. You look like you haven't slept properly in months. He was almost to the door when she called out. Why are you really doing this? He paused, looked back. For a moment something raw flickered across his face. Because I know what it's like to have nowhere to go, and nobody should have to feel that way. Then he was gone. The first week was paradise. Stephanie slept in a real bed for the first time in months, cooked in a kitchen with appliances that actually worked, stood at those massive windows watching the city lights, and felt something like peace. Chaejong didn't contact her, didn't stop by. She started to relax, started to think maybe this was just what he'd said, a simple business arrangement, until the 8th night, when she heard the front door open at 2 a.m. If you're already hooked and your heart is racing, hit that subscribe button right now because this tension is only getting started. Drop a like and tell me in the comments if you think Stephanie should trust this mysterious stranger. Because trust me, nothing in this story is what it seems. Stephanie sat up in bed, heart racing. She'd locked that door, triple-checked it. Footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, male. She grabbed her phone, finger hovering over emergency services, when her bedroom door opened. Chaejong stood there, and Stephanie's breath caught for all the wrong reasons. His suit jacket was gone, white shirt unbuttoned at the throat, sleeves rolled up to his elbows, blood on his knuckles, a cut above his eyebrow that was still bleeding. What happened to you? Business. He moved to her attached bathroom without asking permission, flipped on the light, started running water in the sink. Stephanie followed, watched him wash blood from his hands with methodical precision. The water ran pink, then clear. You're hurt. I've had worse. She found herself moving closer, grabbing a washcloth, dampening it. Sit. He raised an eyebrow but obeyed, perching on the edge of her bathtub. Stephanie stood between his legs, cleaning the cut on his face with shaking hands. This close. She could smell him, expensive cologne mixed with something darker. Could see the way his jaw clenched when she pressed too hard. Could feel the heat radiating from his body. Why did you come here? Her voice came out breathless. This is my apartment. You know what I mean. His hand caught her wrist, stilling her movements. Because it's the only place in this city where I can breathe. The admission hung between them, raw and unexpected. Chaejong, just Jong. His thumb brushed across her pulse point. When it's just us, call me Jong. Her heart was racing and she knew he could feel it. Jong, what kind of business are you really in? The kind where I can't afford weakness. Where showing mercy gets you killed. Where I do things that would make you look at me differently if you knew. His grip tightened slightly. So don't ask questions you don't want answers to. She should pull away. Should demand he leave. Should remember that she came to Seoul to escape dangerous men. Not walk straight into the arms of one. But there was something in his eyes. Something broken that called to the broken parts in her. Why me? Why help me specifically? I saw your picture. On Minho's phone when he was showing me photos of his girlfriend. His free hand came up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. You were laughing in it, really laughing, and I thought, she looks free. But then Minho told me what you were running from, told me about Paris, about your ex, about how scared you still are. Tears pricked her eyes. And you weren't free at all. You were just better at pretending. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. I know that look, Stephanie. I wear it every day. Something cracked open in her chest. You need to leave. But she didn't mean it, and they both knew it. Tell me to go and I will. She couldn't. God help her, she couldn't. Jong stood, and suddenly she was backed against the bathroom wall, his hands braced on either side of her head. This is a bad idea. I know. I'm not a good man. I know that too. His forehead dropped to hers. If I kiss you right now, everything changes. You understand that? Instead of answering, Stephanie closed the distance between them. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, like they were both testing boundaries, seeing if this was real. But then his hand slid into her hair, and the kiss deepened, became something fierce and desperate and inevitable. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jong's expression was conflicted. I should go. You should. But neither of them moved. One night, he said quietly. Give me one night where I don't have to be who I am out there. Where I can just be a man with a woman who makes him forget. It was the vulnerability in his voice that destroyed her. Okay. Morning came with sunlight and regret in equal measure. Stephanie woke alone. For a moment she thought maybe she dreamed it. But then she saw the note on her nightstand. Had to go. Don't overthink this. Jay, don't overthink this. Right. Because sleeping with her landlord, who was clearly involved in something illegal, was totally normal. Not something to overthink at all. She spent the day in a daze. Went to her part-time job at the bookstore. Came home. Made dinner she didn't eat. And tried not to think about the way Jong had looked at her, touched her, whispered her name like a prayer. He didn't come back that night. Or the next. By the third night, Stephanie was starting to think she'd been right to regret everything. One night. That's all he'd wanted. Mission accomplished. She was curled on the couch at midnight when her phone buzzed. Come down to the parking garage. Now. No signature. But she knew. Stephanie should ignore it. Should stay safely in her apartment and pretend this whole thing never happened. Instead, she grabbed her shoes. Jong was leaning against a black Mercedes, arms crossed, still wearing a suit, still devastatingly handsome, still looking at her like she was something precious and dangerous all at once. Get in. Where are we going? Does it matter? It should. It absolutely should. Stephanie got in the car. They drove in silence through Seoul's late-night streets, past Gangnam, past Itaewon, into areas Stephanie didn't recognize. Jong's jaw was tight, hands gripping the wheel with barely controlled tension. Are you going to tell me what's wrong? I tried to stay away. His voice was rough. Spent 3 days trying to convince myself that sleeping with you was a mistake, that I should keep my distance, let you live your life without dragging you into mine. And I can't. He took a sharp turn. I can't stop thinking about you. Can't sleep. Can't focus. You're in my head, Stephanie, and I don't know how to make it stop. Her breath caught. Why does it need to stop? He pulled over abruptly, turning to face her. In the dim light from the street lamps, his expression was agonized. Because caring about someone in my world is a death sentence. The people I love become targets. Leverage. The moment anyone finds out about you. His jaw clenched. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're saying caring about me is dangerous. I'm saying caring about you might get you killed. Silence filled the car. So why did you text me? Stephanie's voice was steady despite the fear creeping up her spine. Why bring me out here? Because I'm selfish. Jong reached for her, pulling her across the console until she was practically in his lap. Because 3 days without you felt like 3 years. Because I'd rather have you in my life and spend every second terrified for you than not have you at all. That's insane. Welcome to my world. Sweetheart. His hand cupped her face. Tell me to take you home. Tell me you don't want this. Lie to me if you have to. Just give me a reason to do the right thing and walk away. Stephanie searched his eyes, saw the same desperation she felt, the same impossible pull. I don't want you to walk away. Something in him broke. The kiss was consuming, all-encompassing, like he was trying to crawl inside her skin. Stephanie's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, needing more. We can't do this in the car. Zhang's voice was strained. Then take me somewhere we can. He drove like the devil himself was chasing them. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a building Stephanie didn't recognize. Zhang led her inside, through a lobby, into an elevator that required a key card. The penthouse they entered made her Gangnam apartment look modest. You live here? When I need to disappear. He pulled her close, backing her toward the bedroom. No one knows about this place except my most trusted people. You're safe here. Safe. What a strange concept. She hadn't felt safe in years. But standing there in Zhang's arms, feeling his heart race against hers, she felt something close to it. They made it to the bedroom. Clothes disappeared. Walls came down. And for those few hours, neither of them was running from anything. 3 weeks blurred together in stolen moments. During the day, Stephanie went to work, attended her Korean language classes, lived her normal life. But at night, she became someone else. Someone who slipped into black cars and secret penthouses. Someone who fell more deeply in love with a dangerous man every time he looked at her. Zhang showed her his world in pieces, took her to underground restaurants where powerful men bowed to him, introduced her to his driver, Mr. Kim, who looked at her with something like pity, taught her which streets to avoid, which people to never make eye contact with. I need you to promise me something, he said one night as they lay tangled in his sheets. What? If something happens to me, don't. Listen. He pulled her closer. If something happens, if I don't come back one night, you pack a bag and you leave Seoul. There's money in an account under your name. Mr. Kim has the details. You take it and you run. Terror gripped her chest. What's going to happen? Nothing if I'm careful. But his jaw was tight. There's a situation developing. Korean gangs, Chinese triads, Russian bratva, everyone wants a piece of Seoul right now. Territory, disputes, the kind that get bloody, then stop, walk away. I can't. I built this empire from nothing. I'm not handing it over because some foreigners think they can take it. His hand slid into her hair. But I need to know you'll be safe. Promise me, Stephanie. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she wouldn't leave, wouldn't abandon him. But the fear in his eyes was real. I promise. 2 nights later, everything changed. Stephanie was leaving her language class when she felt it. That old, familiar sensation. Eyes on her back. She'd felt it before in Paris, when he used to follow her, track her movements, show up wherever she went to remind her that she couldn't escape. She walked faster, took a random turn, ducked into a coffee shop. Through the window she saw him, a man in a black jacket, Western, maybe Russian based on his features. Watching the coffee shop with calculated patience, her hands shook as she pulled out her phone. Zhang answered on the first ring. What's wrong? There's someone following me. Where are you? His voice went cold, deadly. She gave him the address. Zhang, I'm scared. I know, sweetheart, I know. She heard car doors, shouted orders in Korean. Stay inside, don't move. I'm coming. He was there in 10 minutes. Stephanie saw the black Mercedes pull up, saw Zhang exit with 3 other men, saw the way the man following her took one look at them and ran. Zhang's men gave chase. Zhang came inside, eyes scanning the coffee shop until they landed on her. Are you hurt? She shook her head, unable to speak. He pulled her into his arms, right there in the middle of the shop, not caring who saw. I've got you. You're safe. Who was he? Russian bratva. Zhang's jaw clenched. They're making a move. Must have found out about you. Decided you'd make good leverage. The implication hit her like ice water. Because of me. Because we're together, this isn't your fault, isn't it? She pulled back. You said it yourself. People you care about become targets. Stephanie, I should leave Seoul. No. The word cracked like a whip. I'll make it clear that you're off limits, that anyone who touches you dies screaming. The casual violence in his tone should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel something else entirely. Protected. Claimed. Take me to the penthouse. That night, they didn't talk about the Russian, didn't talk about the danger or the future or any of it. They just held each other like the world was ending. Maybe it was. The war started 3 days later. Stephanie woke in the penthouse to the sound of Zhang's phone ringing incessantly. She watched him answer. watched his expression go cold and hard. How many? A pause. Get everyone to the warehouse. I'm on my way. What happened? The Russians hit one of my shipments, killed 3 of my men. He was already dressing, pulling on tactical gear she'd never seen before. I have to go. Jong, stay here. Don't leave for Antitino. Any reason? Mr. Kim is posted outside. He crossed to her, kissed her hard. I love you. Remember that. Don't say it like you're not coming back. But he was already gone. Stephanie spent that day in agony, pacing the penthouse, calling Jong's phone over and over with no answer, watching the news for reports of violence in Seoul. When night fell with no word, terror set in. At midnight, the penthouse door opened. Jong stood there, and Stephanie's heart stopped. Blood. So much blood. His shirt was soaked with it, his face splattered. He swayed in the doorway, and she saw it then, the wound in his side, still bleeding. Oh my God. She rushed to him, caught him as he stumbled. Hospital. We need to get you to a hospital. No hospitals. No doctors. He pressed a hand to his side. Medical supplies. Bathroom cabinet. She helped him to the couch, hands shaking as she gathered what she needed. The wound was deep, a knife cut that had barely missed vital organs. This needs stitches. Then stitch it. He handed her a bottle of whiskey. I've had worse. Stephanie had never done anything like this before, but she'd watched enough medical dramas, and Jong talked her through it with gritted teeth and whiskey-rough instructions. When she finally finished, his face was gray with pain. The Russians? Dead. All of them. He said it flatly. I made an example. Made it clear what happens when someone comes after what's mine. How many? You don't want to know. But she did. She wanted to know exactly who she'd fallen in love with. What he was capable of. Tell me. His eyes met hers, dark and unflinching. 12. 12 men. Dead because of her. Because Jong couldn't let them live after they'd threatened her. Stephanie should feel horrified. Should be repulsed by the violence. By the blood still staining his clothes. Instead, she felt safe. I'm a monster, Jong said quietly. You should be running. I know what you are. She moved to sit beside him, careful of his injury. I've known for weeks. And I love you anyway. The words came out steady. Sure. I love you because you're a monster. Because you'd burn the world down to keep me safe. Because when I'm with you, I'm not scared anymore. His hand found hers, squeezed. I don't deserve you. Probably not. She leaned against him carefully. But you have me anyway. They sat like that until dawn, 2 broken people finding something like wholeness in each other's arms. The next month was a delicate balance. Jong's injury healed slowly. Stephanie moved into the penthouse officially. Stopped pretending she lived in the Gangnam apartment. They existed in their own world, carefully constructed and fiercely protected. But reality had a way of creeping in. Stephanie's visa was expiring. She had 3 months left in Korea before she'd have to return to France, or find another way to stay. Marry me, Jong said one night over dinner. She choked on her wine. What? Marry me. Solves the visa problem. Keeps you here legally. Gives you my protection officially. He said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather. That's not how proposals work. How do they work? Usually there's romance. Kneeling. A ring. Something shifted in his expression. Jong stood, pulled a box from his pocket, and got down on one knee right there in the kitchen. Stephanie Laurent, I love you more than I've ever loved anything. You walked into my life when I'd forgotten what it meant to feel human. Every moment with you is a gift I don't deserve. He opened the box, revealing a ring that took her breath away. Marry me. Not because of the visa. Not because of convenience. Marry me because I want to spend whatever time I have left making you happy. Because you're the only good thing in my violent, bloody world. Because I'm completely, irrevocably yours. Tears streamed down her face. You're serious. I've never been more serious about anything. She should think about this, should consider the implications, the danger, the life she'd be committing to. Should remember that she came to Seoul to find freedom, not chain herself to another man. But Jong wasn't like him. Jong didn't control her out of cruelty. Jong protected her because he loved her. And somehow, in loving him back, Stephanie had found the freedom she'd been searching for all along. Yes. His smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. He slipped the ring on her finger, pulled her into his arms, and kissed her like she was air and he'd been drowning. We'll do it next week. Small ceremony. Just us and a few witnesses. Next week? I'm not waiting. His grip on her tightened. Not when I could lose you. Not when life is this unpredictable. Next week, you become mine officially. The possessiveness should have felt suffocating. Instead, it felt like coming home. They were married in a small courthouse ceremony with Mr. Kim and two of Jong's most trusted men as witnesses. Stephanie wore a simple, white dress. Jong wore a suit that cost more than most people's cars. When the officiant declared them married, he kissed her like he was claiming her soul. The party afterward was anything but simple. Jong had rented out an entire restaurant. The guest list was small but powerful men and women from Korea's underground, people who controlled the city's shadows. They bowed to Jong, welcomed Stephanie with careful respect, and made it clear through every gesture that she was now under the protection of Seoul's most dangerous man. It should have terrified her. Instead, Stephanie felt powerful. Late in the evening, Jong pulled her onto the dance floor, held her close as they swayed to music she didn't recognize. Happy? Deliriously. She rested her head on his shoulder. Is this real? Sometimes I think I'll wake up and it'll all be a dream. It's real, Mrs. Che. He said her new name like a caress. You're stuck with me now. Good. They left the party early, drove to the penthouse, and spent their wedding night the way they spent every night. Tangled together, breathless and desperate, like the world might end at any moment, and they needed to make every second count. 3 weeks into married life, the phone call came. Jong was in a meeting when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, frowned, and answered. Stephanie watched his expression change from neutral to shocked to devastated in the span of seconds. When? A pause. I understand. I'll handle it. He hung up, just stared at the wall. What happened? My sister. His voice was hollow. Accident in Busan. Car crash. She didn't make it. Stephanie's heart broke for him. She'd never met his sister, but she knew Jong loved her fiercely, protected her from his world the same way he tried to protect everyone he cared about. I'm so sorry. He nodded mechanically. I need to go to Busan, handle the arrangements. Make sure, his voice cracked. Make sure she's taken care of. I'm coming with, Stephanie, I'm your wife. You don't do this alone. Something in his face crumpled. Jong pulled her into his arms, buried his face in her hair, and finally let himself break. They drove to Busan the next morning. The funeral was a small affair. Jong had kept his sister separate from his criminal life, so most mourners were her friends and co-workers who had no idea what her brother did for a living, until a man showed up who clearly did know. He was tall, Western, with cold blue eyes and a smile that made Stephanie's skin crawl. He approached Jong after the service, offered condolences that sounded more like threats. Your sister. Tragic accident. His English was accented, Russian. One must be so careful on these roads. Jong's entire body went rigid. What did you say? Only that Seoul has become very dangerous lately. Accidents happen, especially to family members of men who don't know when to back down. The implication hung in the air like poison. You killed her. Jong's voice was barely human. You killed my sister. I have no idea what you're talking about. The Russian smiled. But perhaps this tragedy will remind you that you're not untouchable, that everyone you love is vulnerable, including your beautiful new wife. He was gone before Jong could respond. Stephanie watched her husband's face transform into something inhuman. Pure rage, pure grief, pure murder. Jong, get in the car. What are you going to do? What I should have done weeks ago. He was already on his phone, barking orders in Korean. I'm going to burn their entire organization to the ground. When they reached the penthouse, Jong kissed her once, fierce and desperate. I love you. Remember that. Don't go. I have to. His hands framed her face. They killed my sister. They threatened you. If I don't end this now, it never ends. Then let me come with you. No. He pressed his forehead to hers. You stay here where it's safe. Mr. Kim and 6 of my best men are posted outside. Nobody gets to you. Understand? She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she couldn't lose him too, but she saw the grief in his eyes, the rage that needed an outlet, and knew nothing she said would stop him. Come back to me. Always. He left at midnight with 20 men. Stephanie spent that night in agony, knowing that somewhere in Seoul, her husband was waging war, that lives were ending because of grief and love and revenge all tangled together. Dawn came with silence. No phone call, no news. Just terrible, suffocating silence. At 8 a.m., Mr. Kim knocked on the door. The expression on his face made Stephanie's world tilt. No, Mrs. Che. No, he's fine. He's coming back, he promised. There was a raid. The Russians had tipped off the police. Jong and 15 others were arrested. They're taking him to the detention center now. The room spun. How long? With the evidence they have? 20 years minimum. 20 years. A lifetime. A death sentence. I need to see him. They won't allow visitors for 48 hours. Stephanie felt like she was drowning. The man she'd married 3 weeks ago was gone. The future they'd been building together was erased. And she was alone again. No, not alone. Not this time. Get me a lawyer, the best lawyer in Seoul. I don't care what it costs. Mr. Kim bowed slightly. Jong left instructions. Account access, legal contacts, safe houses. Everything you need is in his office safe. The combination is your birthday. Of course it was. Even in planning for his own downfall, Jong had made sure she'd be taken care of. Stephanie spent the next 48 hours preparing, meeting with lawyers, liquidating assets, calling in favors from Jong's vast network of connections. When she finally got permission to see him, she walked into that detention center with her head high. Jong sat across from her in the visiting room, wearing prison clothes, bruises on his face from what had clearly been a rough arrest. But when he saw her, his expression transformed. You shouldn't be here. I'm your wife. Where else would I be? His hand pressed against the glass between them. Stephanie, you need to leave Seoul. Take the money, go somewhere safe, start over. No, this isn't a request. And this isn't a negotiation. She matched his hand with hers, glass separating their palms. I'm not leaving you. I'm not giving up. We're going to fight this. There's no fighting this. The evidence is solid. The Russians made sure of that. Then we'll break you out. He actually laughed, a broken sound. You've been watching too many movies. I've been married to you for 3 weeks. I've learned a few things. She leaned closer. You have connections. People who owe you. Resources they don't know about. We use them. It's too dangerous. I don't care. Her voice was steel. You saved me, Jong. You gave me a life when I had nothing. You made me feel safe for the first time in years. Now, it's my turn to save you. Something shifted in his eyes. Hope mixed with fear. I love you. I love you too. She smiled through tears. And I'm getting you out of here, even if I have to burn Seoul down to do it. The guard called time. Jong stood reluctantly. Mrs. Che? The Russians will come for you now that I'm locked up. They'll see you as unprotected. Let them try. She met his eyes. I'm not the scared girl you met 6 months ago. I'm your wife, and I've learned from the best. As she walked out of that detention center, Stephanie felt something crystallize inside her. Determination, rage, power. Jong had spent months protecting her. Now it was her turn to protect him. And God help anyone who stood in her way. To be continued. If your heart is racing and you're desperate to know what happens next, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a like if you're rooting for Stephanie to break Jong out, and comment below telling me, would you risk everything for the person you love? Because trust me, part 2 is going to be explosive.